Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What Am I Thinking? A podcast where two sisters share uplifting conversations on fun and sometimes serious topics.
Join us each week by clicking the notification bell and subscribing to our channel. If you enjoy the show, use the share link. It's one of the best ways to expand the conversation. Hello and welcome back to What Am I Thinking? Today we're going to talk about the news, truth, fear-based news or fear-driven news, and cancel culture. Unless you have been a hermit living in a cave or under a rock, I'm sure that you have listened to or read one or more stories with questionable information or information that is not so much based in truth, more so driven by fear or someone's idea that they don't like that things are changing and we need to stay with things as they always have been. We're going to dive into that today because it's something that has become a growing problem. And the question is, are we just going to, as a country, as a world, sit back and just watch integrity and truth go out the window? We're going to sit back and just watch people not want to face what our history has shown us, or that, guess what, it's okay to look at something and realize what we did was wrong and change. Let's just dive into those two topics. What are you thinking, Tracy?
Well, I first say that God has not given me a spirit of fear. And so when I see other Christians leading with fear-based issues, it makes me sad because that's not the truth you're supposed to be standing in.
Okay, so let's narrow in on something specific because we know that is broad, but it is a mouthful, and it's a lot of things just within any type of religion, and we can name different religions where they feed upon the fear of their congregants in order to get across the message that they want to get across.
True. So whether it's let's just even go to fear-based faith.
Okay, yeah.
And so to me, that's not the God of love that I know of. However, we know that the heaven and hell mentality has been part of a lot of belief systems that believe in the same Bible that I believe in. And that is one of those fear-based tactics that are used to sort of get you in line. But there are also different aspects of scripture that are used and twisted to push an agenda or a belief when it comes to homosexuality. They want to use that abomination and all those things, but we know that the context to which they are using it doesn't line up.
So let's just stop there. Okay, so why do you think the church, because they do want to use scriptures as a foundation, so you spoke about homosexuality, what is the fear of stepping back, looking at our original text, and I don't mean King James Version,
right?
I mean beyond and before the interpretation,
right?
And realizing that maybe we got that interpretation wrong. Why do you think that today's church isn't willing, and I'm not going to say all, because some churches have moved out of that shadow, that belief that the book that we have right now, we don't need no more interpretation.
Right.
When it has been interpreted and changed, and there's so many versions, there's more versions than I even know.
I know.
So those that aren't on that train of going back to look at the original text, why do you think that is? What is the fear behind knowing the truth?
Well, because that would unearth a lot of other falsehoods, and it would kind of truly probably shake the foundation of a lot of the belief systems. But the thing is, it really would, in their mind, I think they're making it worse than it would really be to tell that real truth, because I was watching some show, and the person was saying something about how the sin of homosexuality has been so demonized and made to seem like the worst sin. And they said, you all treat that sin as if it's so horrible, but what about fornication? What about the people that are having sex outside of marriage? What about the people who are having being adulterous, and aren't those sins just as wrong? And so why? And so we know that we've had this conversation that you can't, the sins that are really tearing apart of the family
are the
things that you whitewash, and
right.
that you don't really look at, and that you're not really focused on, because your congregation would probably shrink if you really preached on the sins that are really the substance abuse, the domestic violence, the, as we said, infidelity, the sex outside of marriage. If you looked at those things and how they're impacting the family unit, then you might actually be able to help some families, as opposed to looking at homosexuality, which I, as a clinician, have not seen a ton of families torn apart coming into counseling about that issue. I've had to work with parents to help them with the parent-child relationship. I probably had one couple come in and address a spouse having to come out, but that's it. I've been a clinician over 25 years. So in those 25 years, I've dealt with tons of adultery. I've dealt with all kind of abuse issues, substance abuse issues that are tearing apart the family. But I can only think of one clinical issue where, and guess what? That ended quite amicably. And the other spouse had to acknowledge that it was something that they kind of knew anyway. So it wasn't even... It didn't end up being a horrible thing. That family was able to still, because there were children, it didn't end up being a horrible thing. They're still a different but good family unit, even though the spouses are no longer together. Healthier than a lot of heterosexual relationships that have ended in divorce. So I don't see it as the demon that it's being made out to be.
So, which is kind of sad, because I know another conversation that we've often had is that within church, that's supposed to be your safe place to go. Just like your home is supposed to be your safe place. But unfortunately, too many places of worship have turned into places of finger pointing, accusations, taking the Bible or Bible verses and using it for specific platforms.
Right.
When the Bible verse that always sticks out to me is, and I'm paraphrasing, "You who are without sin,
cast the first stone." Right.
And they'll even use that one and then turn right around
and cast it.
And cast the stone. Right. So, so we know that even in the church, fear is a very powerful thing. And when you tell people you're going to go to hell, you know, they want to get in line.
Right.
And that's how religion has for thousands of years,
right,
since its inception,
right,
has used fear to keep congregants in control.
And so now let's look at that on a community level.
Okay.
And how people are using crime, and how we had that whole wave of defund the police, turn into your streets are going to be ridden with criminals running it and all those things. It's truly when you take things to an extreme, and I know I say this all the time, extremes on one end of the spectrum or the other are not good. Extremist thinking does not work because you're taking it to a scenario that is really a falsehood. It's a fallacy. It's unrealistic. And it's that kind of 1 in a billion chance of that being what's going to happen, but you're selling it as if that's the everyday truth.
So just with that particular one, defund the police, let's look at that from the political arena and just the community arena. How they took that one idea and used fear on both sides to push forth an issue when the truth of the matter was nobody was ever saying do away with the police. Correct. Or that's not what it meant in the first place.
Right.
But the truth would not have served either side.
No. Well, it would have served one side, but we know that's the side that does not know how to put any kind of issues forth in a way that is receptive to the masses for whatever reason. So it would have served one side to frame it in a more truthful and realistic way, which people were saying instead of deform, say reform, which is more of what it really was. And it was really reallocation is what it really was, to reallocate the funding. Because I know in my field, when it comes to mental health issues and police being the ones that are the first to have to be there,
the first contact.
They do have what we call some CIT teams that consist of mental health professionals and police who have been trained to know how to work with them to respond to the scene so you have a better outcome. And so it's those type of things of reallocation of money to put together a more comprehensive and more appropriate level of response to certain type of issues. A homeless issue, you don't necessarily need a cop with a gun there, or maybe you need one but not five.
I think of the incident where the police officer showed up. It was an altercation that was going on between two young girls. When the police arrived, and out comes the girl had a knife, right? Yes. She had a knife. You used a word that is very key. Teams. And maybe we need to look at our first responders in a completely different way. And maybe there should be a team of people. You might not need everybody on that team, but they're there. Because we know these situations, you never know what you're getting into until you're there. The person on the phone could be saying, my son is having a crisis, and you arrive, and the crisis could be something completely different.
Because when the police pull up for certain communities, that ramps it up in a whole nother way.
Absolutely.
So even the way they show up, what they're showing up in could be different to let them know that this does not have to turn into a lethal situation. Because the same way the police adrenaline rush when they see certain things, police hate responding to domestic violence calls. Because it is a domestic issue, but you don't know how that's going to jump off. And I get that from there. But the thing they have to realize is on the other side of that, the same way they have that adrenaline rush, when they come onto the people involved have the same overreaction. So the way you show up on the scene, what is showing up on the scene, what you're showing up on the scene with, could help to de-escalate
Right.
instead of turn it into a lethal outcome when it
Right.
doesn't have to.
Right.
So those are the kind of things when we talk about reallocation to and different training and all of those things. It
But
doesn't
then-
have to be that horrible case scenario.
But that's the unfortunate thing, is that it can't be taken to the next level when fear and when people perpetrate lies
Yes.
about things. And
Yes.
we're in this environment. I remember I was watching a Bill Maher episode about 4 years ago. And the audience thought, and I as well, that he was playing when he said this. We're going to come to a time in our nation's future where lies are truth and truth are lies.
Yeah.
And at the time he said it, the audience laughed, the panel laughed, Bill did not laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And as each year of a certain president's term, it became a daily thing where lies became truth and truth became lies.
And you remember one of the, I think it was CNN or somebody began to run ads to literally say that, I think it was like they had an apple or something and said, if just because, like if I tell you this apple is an orange, that doesn't, it was something basically saying that people, the truth is the truth. I don't care how you want to spin it.
Right.
You know this is an apple. I know this is an apple. And I don't care how many times they tell you this is something else. You know it's an apple.
It's beyond comprehension. And even to sit here and talk about it now, I'm flabbergasted. I cannot believe that people are.
This is the point we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's beyond me. So let's just jump over into this cancel.
I think that in order to do that one justice.
Sorry about that, folks.
I think that's another sign that this one, I think we wrap up this one on fear and we save the cancel culture topic for our next one so that we can do it justice, because we wouldn't really do it full justice by starting it now, because I think this is a good place to close on the fear tactics that are used, whether it's regardless of what area it's being used in. Fear should not be a tactic or a motive to get people to move the needle and do what it is that you want. Come from a place of facts and truth and honesty and realness. And so don't allow yourself to be rooted in fear from things that people are telling you. When you learn for yourself, be your own. When you hear something on the news, don't let that be the end all be all.
Absolutely.
Do your own research and don't people become so set and cemented in a thought or idea, and they have never fully vetted it for themselves.
This is a topic that I really want you guys to get involved with. Leave us your comments. Talk amongst each other, because this is something that is huge and is very, very pervasive, especially in this country. It's something that is extremely damaging. It's frightening and here we're talking about fear, but it is frightening to me to see people gravitate to lies.
Yeah.
And much of it is fear-based, and that's the reason.
And we haven't even talked about how fear has allowed scam artists to take hold of people and put them in a financial hole, because they start by the IRS is doing this, or you have to respond by this. And they had this whole scam at one point calling someone saying their loved one, this is your grandson calling from jail and I need, I mean, all of that is based in fear. Don't allow yourself to be moved by fear. Allow yourself to make choices, life decisions based on truth, facts, and your own research and knowledge. And that's what we are thinking.
That's
on
smart talk.
fear.
Yes. So please subscribe, comment, and click that bell to be notified when the next episode drops. Thank you for listening.